point average ever in my engineering school, the co-director of a consulting firm tells me. But when I joined the Army and went to officer candidate school, I was number 1 in my class. It was all about how you handle yourself, get along with people, work in teams, leadership. And that's what I find to be true in the world of work. In other words, what matters is a different way of being smart. In my book, Emotional Intelligence, my focus was primarily on education, though a short chapter dealt with implications for work and organizational life. What caught me by utter surprise and delighted me was the flood of interest from the business community. Responding to a tidal wave of letters and faxes, emails and phone calls, requests to speak and consult, I found myself on a global odyssey, talking to thousands of people, from CEOs to secretaries, about what it means to bring emotional intelligence to work. Over and over, I heard what became a familiar litany. People like the high-performing business consultant with the low GPA told me they found emotional intelligence, not technical expertise or book learning, to be what mattered most for excellence. My book, they said, made it safe to speak up about the business costs of emotional ineptitude and to question a narrow expertise-is-all view of capabilities. They felt they now had a new way to think about what they wished for in their own workplaces. People spoke with extraordinary candor about matters far beyond the reach of corporate PR radar. Many detailed what is not working. Such tales of emotional ineptitude are retold here without revealing the person's or organization's identity. But many others told success stories, confirming the practical value of working with emotional intelligence. And so began the 2-year inquiry that has culminated in this book. The effort has woven together several professional strands from my own life. From the outset, I've relied on the methods of journalism to delve into the facts and to narrate my conclusions. I've also gone back to my professional roots as an academic psychologist, conducting an exhaustive review of the research that illuminates the place of emotional intelligence in high performance for individuals, teams, and organizations. And I've performed or commissioned several new scientific analyses of data from hundreds of companies to establish a precise metric for quantifying the value of emotional intelligence. This search has taken me back to research I participated in while a graduate student and then faculty member at Harvard University. That research was part of an early challenge to the IQ mystique, the false but widely embraced notion that what matters for success is intellect alone. This work helped spawn what has now become a mini-industry that analyzes the actual competencies that make people successful in jobs and organizations of every kind. And the findings are astonishing. IQ takes second position to emotional intelligence in determining outstanding job performance. Analyses done by dozens of different experts in close to 500 corporations, government agencies, and nonprofit organizations worldwide have arrived independently at remarkably similar conclusions, and their findings are particularly compelling because they avoid the biases or limits inherent in the work of a single individual or group. Their conclusions all point to the paramount place of emotional intelligence in excellence on the job, in virtually any job. To be sure, these ideas are not new to the workplace. How people manage themselves and relate to those around them is central to much classic management theory. What's new is the data. We now have 25 years' worth of empirical studies that tells us with a previously unknown precision just how much emotional intelligence matters for success. Another strand. In the decades since my own research in psychobiology, I have been tracking cutting-edge findings in neuroscience. This has allowed me to propose a foundation in brain science for the emotional intelligence model. Many business people are traditionally skeptical of soft psychology and wary of the pop theories that come and go. But neuroscience makes crystal clear why emotional intelligence matters so much. The ancient brain centers for emotion also harbor the skills needed for managing ourselves effectively and for social adeptness. Thus, these skills are grounded in our evolutionary heritage for survival and adaptation. This emotional part of the brain, neuroscience tells us, learns differently from the thinking brain. That insight has been pivotal in my development of this book and leads me to challenge much conventional wisdom in corporate training and development. I'm not alone in this challenge. For the last 2 years, I have been working as co-chair of the Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in the Workplace, a group of researchers from business schools, the federal government, and industry. Our research reveals deplorable weaknesses in how businesses train people in skills from listening and leadership to team building and handling change. Most training programs have embraced an academic model, but this has been a drastic mistake, wasting millions of hours and billions of dollars. What's needed is an entirely new way of thinking about what it takes to help people boost their emotional intelligence. Some misconceptions. As I've toured the world, talking and consulting with people in business, I've encountered certain widespread misunderstandings about emotional intelligence. Let me clear up some of the most common at the outset. First, emotional intelligence does not mean merely being nice. At strategic moments, it may demand not being nice, but rather, for example, bluntly confronting someone with an uncomfortable but consequential truth they've been avoiding. Second, emotional intelligence does not mean giving free rein to feelings, letting it all hang out. Rather, it means managing feelings so that they are expressed appropriately and effectively, enabling people to work together smoothly toward their common goals. Also, women are not smarter than men when it comes to emotional intelligence, nor are men superior to women. Each of us has a personal profile of strengths and weaknesses in these capacities. Some of us may be highly empathic, but lack some abilities to handle our own distress. Others may be quite aware of the subtlest shift in our own moods, yet be inept socially. It is true that men and women as groups tend to have a shared, gender-specific profile of strong and weak points. An analysis of emotional intelligence in thousands of men and women found that women, on average, are more aware of their emotions, show more empathy, and are more adept interpersonally. Men, on the other hand, are more self-confident and optimistic, adapt more easily, and handle stress better. In general, however, there are far more similarities than differences. Some men are as empathic as the most interpersonally sensitive women, while some women are every bit as able to withstand stress as the most emotionally resilient men. Indeed, on average, looking at the overall ratings for men and women, the strengths and weaknesses average out, so that in terms of total emotional intelligence, there are no sex differences. Finally, our level of emotional intelligence is not fixed genetically, nor does it develop only in early childhood. Unlike IQ, which changes little after our teen years, emotional intelligence seems to be largely learned, and it continues to develop as we go through life and learn from our experiences. Our confidence in it can keep growing. In fact, studies that have tracked people's level of emotional intelligence through the years show that people get better and better in these capabilities as they grow more adept at handling their own emotions and impulses, at motivating themselves, and at honing their empathy and social adroitness. There is an old-fashioned word for this growth in emotional intelligence: maturity. Emotional intelligence, the missing priority. More and more, companies are seeing that encouraging emotional intelligence skills is a vital component of any organization's management philosophy. You don't compete with products alone anymore, but how well you use your people. A manager at Telia, the Swedish telecommunications company, put it to me. And Linda Keegan, Vice President for Executive Development at Citibank, told me, emotional intelligence is the underlying premise for all management training. It's a refrain I hear time and again. The president of a 100-person job shop in the aerospace industry tells me that one of the main companies he supplies, Allied Signal, required that he and all his employees be trained in the ubiquitous quality circle approach. They wanted us to work better as a team, which was great, he says. But we found it hard. How can you be a team if you're not a group first? And to bond as a group, we needed to boost our emotional intelligence. We've been very effective at increasing profitability through methods like re-engineering and speeding up the turnaround cycle for new products. But even with some big successes, our curve of improvement is flattening. A manager at Siemens AG, the German conglomerate, tells me. We see the need to use our people better, maximize our human assets, to make the curve rise again. So we're trying to make the company more emotionally intelligent. A former project manager at Ford Motor Company recounts how he used the learning organization methods developed at MIT's Sloan School of Management in redesigning the Lincoln Continental. He says that learning about emotional intelligence was a kind of epiphany for him. Those are exactly the abilities we had to build up to make us an effective learning organization. A 1997 survey of benchmark practices among major corporations, done by the American Society for Training and Development, found that 4 out of 5 companies are trying to promote emotional intelligence in their employees through training and development when evaluating performance and in hiring. If so, why write this book? Because many or most organizations' efforts to encourage emotional intelligence have been poor, wasting vast amounts of time, energy, and money. For instance, the most systematic study ever done of the return on investment of leadership training, as we will see in Part 4, found that one well-respected week-long seminar for top-level executives actually had a slight negative effect on their job performance. Businesses are waking up to the fact that even the most expensive training can go awry, and often does. And this ineptness comes at a time when emotional intelligence in individuals and organizations is emerging as a missing ingredient in the recipe for competitiveness. Why this matters now. At a California biotech startup, the CEO proudly enumerated the features that made his organization state-of-the-art. No one, including him, had a fixed office. Instead, everyone carried a small laptop, their mobile office, and was wired to everyone else. Job titles were irrelevant. Employees worked in cross-functional teams, and the place bubbled with creative energy. People routinely put in 70 and 80-hour work weeks. So what's the downside? I asked him. There is no downside, he assured me. And that was the fallacy. Once I was free to talk with staff members, I heard the truth. The hectic pace had people feeling burnt out and robbed of their private lives. And though everyone could talk via computer to everyone else, people felt that no one was truly listening to them. People desperately felt the need for connection, for empathy, for open communication. In the new, stripped-down, every job counts business climate, these human realities will matter more than ever. Massive change is a constant. Technical innovations, global competition, and the pressures of institutional investors are ever-escalating forces for flux. Another reality makes emotional intelligence ever more crucial. As organizations shrink through waves of downsizing, those people who remain are more accountable and more visible. Where earlier a mid-level employee might easily hide a hot temper or shyness, now competencies such as managing one's emotions, handling encounters well, teamwork, and leadership show and count more than ever. The globalization of the workforce puts a particular premium on emotional intelligence in wealthier countries. Higher wages in these countries, if they are to be maintained, will depend on a new kind of productivity. And structural fixes or technological advances alone are not enough. As at the California biotech firm, streamlining or other innovations often create new problems that cry out for even greater emotional intelligence. As business changes, so do the traits needed to excel. Data tracking the talents of star performers over several decades